everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode of 52 Authors, 52 Weeks. This week, the first week in November, I am joined by a fellow Illinoisan. I won't say Chicago because I don't really claim Chicago. I say I live in Illinois. But the author today is William Douglas, and I want to show the cover. And the name of his book is The Sum of All Our Anger. See, I said order because I need order. But the name of the book is The Sum of All Our Anger, Civil War 2.0. Welcome to the show.
Dr. Campbell, it's a great honor to be on your show. I'm real excited to appear here and have a good conversation about the book and anything else that is on the agenda. So, thanks again for
Awesome.
having me on.
Awesome. So let's start off. I would love for you to tell our listening, viewing audience about your background, and then we'll get into the book.
Sure. So this is my second book. I've been writing most of my life, but not books. I've written a lot of technical material through my profession. I was in the IT profession for 30 plus years. I just retired December 31st for the Boeing company. I was with them for about a little over 3 years. Prior to that, I had a pretty long career at the Walgreens Corporation in their corporate IT department. And prior to that, with IBM and a couple other companies. So I've done a lot of writing, but like I say, it's generally technical documentation, some website copy and stuff like that. And before I retired, I just had this thought, I do like to write, and I think I'd like to write a novel. So I wrote my first novel was on baseball.
I saw that.
Yeah, yeah. And then my second novel, obviously, is the subject of your show today. So the sum of all our anger, Civil War 2.0. So here we are.
Yeah, you've had a long career. So were you at the Walgreens in Deerfield, Illinois?
Yes, I was out of corporate. We worked in Deerfield, Mount Prospect, Lincolnshire, all in that general area. I was there for about 19 and a half years.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it was a good long run.
You know what? Those long runs don't happen too much anymore.
No, they don't. They don't. People jump around every 3 years or so. And they had a culture, though, at Walgreens that was conducive to sticking around. So there are a lot of people I knew that had been there even longer than I had been there. And there's still some people left that have been there a while. They've had a lot of turnover. There are some issues, and unfortunately, hopefully they'll get things squared away. So
Yeah, I think things have definitely changed. So at the time of us recording this episode, my grandfather is 104 years old.
oh, bless
And
his heart.
I remember growing up looking at, him retiring and seeing how long he had been on his job. And I initially thought that I was going to do that same thing. But
Mm-hmm.
I quickly realized that in order to grow, I
Mm-hmm.
had to go.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember working at Cook County Hospital, and this was in the 90s. And I was an outsider, getting the job there, pretty good job,
sure.
wanted to get promoted. I was not involved in any politics, didn't know anyone. And so uh, when I tried to get promoted, even though I was qualified for the role, someone who I know wasn't qualified got the job.
Uh
So
huh.
I was like, I'm just gonna go because I'm not gonna stay here and not be able to grow.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about. I want to start off by talking. I know you have the first book on baseball, but this book in particular, what inspired you to write the sum of all our anger?
Yeah, so I've been a follower of politics for most of my adult life. I really became, if I could use the term, politically aware during Reagan's term in office in the 80s. And it's just ever since I've always had my finger on the pulse of particularly national politics. And as I saw the decline in the decorum and in the tone from both sides of the aisle, and certainly the accelerating rancor that we have in social media and that two-edged sword, which is what it is. It's a two-edged sword. But I really became increasingly alarmed at what was going on in the country. Um, Several, actually a couple of decades ago now, back in the 1990s, there was a book that came out, When the Almond Tree Blossoms. And it was written by a retired military guy. And it was a story about a second Civil War, a very different story than the one I've written. But it really stuck with me. And the premise in that book, which is a shared premise of mine, is that the war is over the ideological divide that exists between left and right. And so, I kind of tucked that away. And then, probably about 10 years ago, I read William Fortune's book, 1 Second After. And that was also very disturbing. And now that movie, or that book is going to be made into a movie, but that book was about an EMP attack that basically cripples the country. And so, as things continue to devolve, if I could use that word, and the anger rising, um, and then I've got 9 grandkids, I've got 6 kids, I've got three siblings and nieces and a nephew, and my parents are still with us, and it's just a great number of people that I greatly and dearly love and care for. Uh, I started asking my question like, what in the world is going on with our country, and where could all this be headed? And so, um, after I'd written the first book, I was on many podcasts for that book. The book got a couple of awards. Not a grand prize, but it did get some awards. And but a lot of the podcast hosts would ask me, "So are you going to write about the Civil War that's in the book?" And for the sake of your listeners, the first book I wrote is called "The Death and Resurrection of Baseball." The hero is a 12-year-old boy who rediscovers the lost sport of baseball, which has been lost for 100 years.
It
And
really has.
yeah, especially with the White Sox playing.
Yes, and I'm a South Sider, so
I know.
definitely with the White Sox.
I grew up in Oak Lawn, so I feel your pain because I have the same pain. But anyway, and they would ask me, "Are you going to write about the war?" Because the war is like a proverbial nail in the coffin event that kills the sport. It was admittedly a plot device. Okay, how is the sport of baseball going to die? When I was putting the story together, so it kept coming back, and I'm like, I don't know. That's a pretty tough nut. I don't know if I want to tackle that one because that's not going to be fun to write. The baseball book was fun to write because I love the game. But then I look at my grandkids and all these other relations I spoke about. And I'm like, man, I mean, are we actually headed for something dark and perilous? And I says, and it just started to just kind of come over me, like, it's not that I want to write this book. I have to write this book because there's a story here for all Americans, regardless of your political or persuasions or no politics at all. If you're apolitical, um, there's a story here. And the story really has to do about us as a people and how we have to relearn the art of agreeing to disagree and still being Americans. I mean, again, disclosure here, I'm a conservative. I don't have any problems being friends with liberal family members or neighbors or whoever. I mean, it's just the way I'm wired. Um, and the other thing too is I wanted to, get a story out there that really showed the importance of our Constitution and preserving it and protecting it and defending it against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And so you weave all that together, and here we are now, and I've got this story that's, starting to get a little traction. It's a tough genre that I'm in, military and political thrillers, and but it is getting a little traction. So this certainly your podcast helps add towards the traction, and we'll see where it goes from there. So
I love it. So I will be the first person to tell you that a couple of things started to, I would say, rise up in me as I was going through the book. So I don't remember where, but when I was reading the book, I was taken back to eighth grade where I learned about the US Constitution,
right, right,
and we had to memorize.
correct. And
We,
you
the
had to pass a
people of the
test,
United, right? We had to memorize that. And
and you had to pass a test, or you couldn't go to high school.
yes,
I don't know if they
yes.
still do that, but back in the day,
You know what? My kids are grown, and I actually don't remember if they had to,
yeah,
but I grew up as this eighth grader, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, we the people, like us,
right,
the people.
right, right,
And so first of all, let me just tell you, I follow politics, but I don't follow politics. And
sure,
what I mean by that is when it comes time for the national election for president, I watch the RNC, I watch the DNC because
mm-hmm,
I want to just hear what everybody has to say.
sure,
I will say that I am sometimes wondering how authentic they are because
yeah,
I know me as a person, I am very authentic because I don't have time to show
yeah,
up as multiple versions of Lisa. The Lisa that you see now is the same Lisa that you're going to
yeah,
see walking down the street.
yeah, yeah,
So, I struggle because it's like, are they really here for we the people?
yeah, yeah,
So I struggle with that, and thankfully, the presidential election is every 4 years because if it was more than that, I think it would just be bad
yeah,
because it consumes us during that time frame.
yeah, yeah. It does.
So I want to know. So in the book, you really are exploring political and social divides, right?
Yeah.
So what did you draw upon any real world issues that maybe you've experienced or were exposed to, because you have to have a really creative mind to write this content.
Well, I love stories, to tell them, to hear them, and to create a good story. So, um, but this one, you know, when I sat down to write this, I mean, the rhetoric hit another level that I had never seen or heard in my entire existence. I just turned 66 last week, so um,
Happy
yeah.
belated birthday.
Oh, thank you so much. You look good at 29, by the way.
I know. I was thinking of, you know what? When I tell people that I'm 52, they say, "What?"
Uh, well, anyway, so yeah, so when I started writing the story, I had a rough outline in my mind what I wanted the story to look like. And as I started to put words and thoughts on the page, it was really kind of eerie, uncanny actually. The number of times I would put something down, type away, and then there'd be a story in the news that had a direct tie back to what I just wrote. I mean, it was actually kind of spooking me out a little bit. I was like, whoa, what is going on here? And so, for instance, the idea of um, ditching the Constitution. It actually came out of a New York Times editorial piece by a Harvard and Yale law professor. And the opinion piece was that the Constitution is broken and cannot be fixed. So, so they go through this, and I'm like, wow. And then there were so many other nuggets. Sometimes the time was a little loose, but a lot of times they were spot on. The idea of secession. There's an active group in Texas that advocates for secession right now from the United States. Um, just all these other these ideas, and then the as you see the polarization is so taut now. The line, if you imagine a proverbial tug of war going on, the line between the groups is so taut, and that in that line, that invisible line, there's a tension that is building and building and building. At some point, it could snap. And when I look at the course of the nation, and you see the trajectory that we're on, right? And like a projectile, you can predict where it's going to land unless something comes along and intercepts the trajectory. And so when I see the trajectory that the country's on right now, I'm very, very concerned, very concerned. And so that idea that of concern and of this tension that's building all falls into play here in the opening chapters of the book when the tension finally snaps and we start shooting at one another again. So
And you know what? When I was reading the book, I felt like part of this was I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, I'm concerned about my legacy, my lineage,
yeah,
what they have to deal with. But then
yeah,
the other thing that really kind of like sparked something inside of me, your book was set to the year 2061, right?
correct.
And you probably remember this, but in the 1960s, I wasn't here, I came in the 70s, so I want to give that disclaimer. But there was a cartoon called The Jetsons, right? And
I
it
watched it many times.
yes, me too, right? So it was created in the 60s, it aired in and it re-aired in the 70s and 80s, and it was the future
Right,
that we could not imagine. And
right,
so that brought me to your novel
yeah,
that you are portraying this year 2061. And then I
sure,
was starting to think about, okay, how old am I going to be during that year? Just all these thoughts and emotions started coming to mind.
yeah,
And so I'm assuming that as you were writing, you were going through those same emotions.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think I'll be here in 2061, but certainly I trust my kids and grandkids will be here. And that was, that factored in. And then when I was envisioning, okay, I've got this story, I want to put it down. When do I want it to start? As far as when does the story start? And so, being a fan of history, well, I'll use a little literary poetry here. I'll have it start on April 12th, 2061, which is 200 years to the day of the first Civil War starting. So that was a little literary poetry there. But more importantly, the concept of putting it out there so that I don't want to alarm people that I think that something like this is going to start like now. I mean, God forbid it, you know. But I also want to put it out there because as people read it, it gives them time to be inflective and think about what they just read and like, oh yeah, I've got kids and grandkids. Maybe I won't be here, but they will. And what can I do personally to contribute to an atmosphere where the rhetoric does get turned down and we do start listening to one another again, and not, just turning off the switch like I don't, forget it, Um, and so that was very intentional to put it out there because I do think that, you know, when you go back and look at history and you look at the year, 1825, certainly the horrible issue of slavery was already in the news. It was already being talked about. The issue of, states' rights and the whole mess that the whole thing was. It was already there. It was already a hot button issue. Um, but the tension, the anger, still had more to cook, if I could use that word, before it all blew up. And
Oh,
so
and it's
I
cooking
see
right
that.
now.
I see that happening now, where it's still it's there, it's building, and I don't see anything that's going to intercept it right now, except the good Lord Himself, personally. But um, so putting that out there again, I think gives the readers time to be contemplative and see what they can do at a micro level to help the bigger picture that something something like this never happens again in our country.
You know, I am seeing this book as a movie, because I think it's emotional, and I'm an emotional woman, I'm a menopausal woman, so maybe that's why I'm so emotional. But reading it, I was thinking about how I think it was Bishop King.
Yeah,
This he was a father and a soldier, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
he was caught between his love for his son,
right,
but his loyalty to the country.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
in your as you were writing this, how do you feel that he represents in today's society?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, just for the benefit of your listeners, just kind of draw a paradox between my story and the movie Civil War, which came out about 18 months ago, and that's the spring of last year. So, in that storyline, it envisions a conservative, really a extreme right wing takeover of the White House. And so there's this Civil War conflict. I saw the movie. It was already out as I was finishing the writing of my book, but I didn't want to see the movie have any influence over what I was finishing up writing. So I finished my writing. I went and saw the movie. It's a very disturbing movie. Very disturbing.
Oh, so I shouldn't watch it, or should I watch it?
You should watch it. I
Okay, I'm
think
gonna put it
I
on my
think
list.
it'll, but watch it after you read all of my book.
Okay.
It's a great paradox between the two stories. So my story offers up a scenario where an extreme leftover, I said that word again, an extreme left wing takeover occurs in the country and culminates in the election of the first openly socialist president in 2060. And of course, he gets inaugurated in January of 2061. Um, and so, but I think one of the key things in my scenario that I offer up is this individual's utter hatred for the Constitution and all of our founding documents. And literally, he wants to upend the country and wants to use the proverbial phrase, burn it all down and start all over again. He hates capitalism. And really just wants to erase the country and start over again. And so Bishop King comes along as one of the protagonists in the story, and he's a leader of a National Guard unit based out of Woodstock, Illinois. And at first, he remains loyal to the country, and then things start getting complicated. And without getting too much into what happens to Bishop King, he winds up, being one of the heroes. But I would just, in modern terms, we would all understand. I would describe Bishop King as a moderate Democrat, a true patriotic Democrat who loves his country, loves our Constitution, and obviously is a man of the cloth, loves our Lord as well. So, but there are other characters in the story. Their extremism comes out and their hatred for what we hold dear is constitution loving Americans. Their hatred is made pretty clear. And so the
Mhm.
tension begins to build between, you know, Bishop King and his son, uh, as well as there's some other relationships too that you have this dynamic building. Like, okay, things are not going the way I thought they were going to go, and so on and so forth. So,
Yes.
and
So
then
I got
it plays out not only in the political realm and in the media realm, but it obviously plays out in the battlefield as well.
yes. So of course, so I asked you about Bishop King. So now I got to ask you about Mary.
Yeah, yeah,
So to me, Mary, I think it was Governor Mary.
yeah.
She's like
Governor
this.
Mary Whitfield of Oklahoma.
Yes. So I feel like she was this figure that was tied to a level of resistance. And was she inspired by any real life leaders today?
You know, it's just maybe it's just a compendium of politicians that still love our Constitution. Um, it's certainly, you know, I like the fact that we're getting more and more females involved in politics and seeking higher office in Congress, and maybe one day, hopefully, there'll be a female president. I know we've got some good female governors, but really, her love of the American values that we hold dear um, is something that I kind of drew upon from many different individuals, male and female, and just kind of you know morph them into this character, Mary Whitfield, who's this. You can maybe envision her as a farmer's daughter that gets involved in politics. She loves our country and hates what's going on the left and right coast, and wants to take a stand that no, we're not surrendering the Constitution. Period. We're not. It's a red line. We're not going to surrender the Constitution. We're willing to take a stand at any cost, whatever it may cost. We are going to take a stand and defend the Constitution.
Well, you know what? Lord willing, I want to be like my granddaddy and make it to
Yeah,
104. So, your book and this interview will be a constant reminder of a future that we couldn't imagine, and just to see how it plays out.
yeah, yeah,
I don't think the country is ready for a woman in office. I believe that. And the reason why I believe that is I've been in healthcare for the last 32 years.
hmm,
And when I look at the leaders who are in the C-suite from a healthcare perspective,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
generally men.
yeah,
Sometimes women can, sneak in there. But one thing I think that happens sometimes with women, we make it to the top, but we don't always send the elevator back down to
uh,
help bring more women up. So,
uh, uh,
in my lifetime, we'll see.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
So you have this out of there, you have this out. Do you plan to write a sequel?
Oh boy, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. Do I hope to write another book? Yes, I do. Um, I'm really focused on promoting this book and trying to get the word out and elevate its standing because I think it is a powerful message. But you can help me by reading the rest of it and giving me your honest opinion when you've read it all, and maybe we can have another discussion about it offline or online, whatever would suit your schedule and taste.
Yes, before you know what? So again, because I'm an emotional menopausal woman, I was so first of all, let me just give this disclaimer to everyone. I don't just read to like read a book. I'm reading, I'm highlighting things, I'm reflecting, sometimes I'm crying. And so given that my grandfather was in the armed services. He was in the
Oh,
army, then he was in the National Guard.
okay.
Actually both of my grandfathers. My uncle, Vietnam, died because of
Agent
Agent
Orange.
Orange.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's an emotional topic. Wait, and then my son is in the Air Force. It's an emotional topic.
Sure. Sure.
And so I had to read it when my mind and heart was open.
Yeah.
And really something I was thinking about for you as the writer,
Yeah.
like what do you want us to what do you want us to do after we finish reading your book?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, it was not easy to write. There were times I had to take a step back. Um, I just got a review from this other podcast host who's also an author of 30 plus books, and she had this great review as a 5-star review. She said there were times she had to walk away and step back before she was ready to keep going on. So the book is easy to read as far as reading it, but what you're being presented and forced, well, not forced, but I guess, well, if you read it, you have to grapple with the concepts that are being offered in the story. And the concepts are very, very real, and they have direct tie ins to current events.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did was I took these current events, and themes and hot button topics, whatever. And I just projected them outward 40 years. Okay, what does this look like 40 years from now if this is unchecked? So this is what comes out in the story. And so, and in that regard, as far as ingesting what you're reading, it can be difficult at times. But if it makes you ask the question, how do we avoid this? I have succeeded in putting this story down, at least for you personally as a reader, because that was the intent, was to get the reader to say, how do we avoid this? And so I think one way would be, quite frankly, is more people buy the story and they read the story. Because the more people become aware of this possible scenario, and by the way, one of the things the other podcast host mentioned in her review is that when she had to step away is because she could see this playing out. She could visualize it. So that really rattled her. So getting the story out, educating people that, yeah, we do have a problem here. We have to turn down the rhetoric. No matter how fiercely loyal you are to a person or a party, we have to make room for dialogue, and we can't continue to make the other side the boogeyman. You just can't
Yes.
do it. They're Americans. Um, so that issue, and then also again, we need to get Americans to fall back in love with the Constitution, to actually know it. How many people actually know the Constitution, even at a basic level?
We know the preamble and that's about it.
Yeah. So, and then the idea of preserving the ideas in our Constitution, in our Bill of Rights, all of that, of course, built upon the concepts in the Declaration of Independence, and all these things are, the cornerstone of our republic. And so, if we want to see the republic continue, and to avoid any kind of horror that could be another civil war, we have to re-educate adults and our kids and grandkids about the Constitution, what's in there, what it means, how it applies to our daily lives, etc.
Educating our kids and grandkids is definitely a struggle. I mean, honestly, we struggle just to get them to open their eyes, pay attention, and vote.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
struggle.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And I think I told one of our kids all the things that my grandfather went through so that we could have rights today.
Sure. Sure.
Um, if you don't wake up,
Yeah.
you're not going to have those rights.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't think that they can imagine that life.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Well, listen, I have absolutely enjoyed getting to know a fellow Illinoisan. I don't want to say Chicago because,
Oh, White Sox fan too. Don't forget that.
yes, lifetime. But wait a minute. Now, I know that they're not doing too well, but we're diehard Bears fans. We're hoping we're hoping for the best. Expect the worst, hope for the best this season. By the time this episode airs, wait, let me give my prediction, and then we'll see if it comes true. I am predicting that the Bears will go 11-17 this year.
11-17.
Is that aggressive?
It might be.
Hey, when this episode airs, we both will have a chuckle. If I was, because this episode will air in November, and so we'll see how many games will we have by then. Okay, well, I'm still sticking to my 11-17. I'm hopeful. I
Okay.
wish they would bring me in as a consultant. I got a couple of things I want to say, motivational in nature,
Yeah, there you
but
go.
they haven't responded to my request.
Yeah.
So, where can our listening, viewing audience find the book and your website and stay in touch to all the things that you're working on?
Yeah, sure. Just point your web browser to authorwilliamrdouglas.com. So if you go authorwilliamrdouglas.com, you get to my website, links to both the books, various platforms you can get them on, of course, the big ones, and would really love your support and to help spread the word about the important story that's in my book.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time today. I wish you the best of luck with your book. I have on my notes that I need. So I I like to watch movies, but again, I got to be in the right mind. And since I'm
Sure.
suffering from insomnia,
Yeah.
you never know what happens in the middle of the night, what I pull up. But I have that on my list. So I'm gonna flag it on my streaming software so that I
Yeah.
could watch
Yeah.
it one day. I'm sure my husband has watched it because he's into all things. That's
Okay.
all I can say.
Well, if he's in the books, I'd love his opinion about the books. So
Oh, okay. Well, let me scratch that. He's not really into reading
he's not a
books.
reader. Okay.
He's not. No, he's not a reader. When I wrote my first book, I was shocked when we were in the review phase, and I looked over and he was reading it,
Oh.
and I was like, "Oh my, he's reading it." Yeah, but he's definitely not a reader, but he's definitely when I showed him your book and a little bit about you, he knew way more than I know. So I'll just leave it at that. He's definitely in tune to politics. I'm trying to get more involved with, just from an advocacy perspective, really understanding um, who we have in office, what value they add. I had an opportunity to go to Springfield, Illinois recently to meet with one of my elected officials. And so I'm trying to get more involved so
Yeah.
that when I go to the ballot, I go with purpose. When I go to vote, I'm voting with purpose.
Yeah. 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 Good. Good for you.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much. And to everyone who is listening, don't forget, or watching, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. This has been another amazing episode of 52 Authors, 52 Weeks, where I just met with William R. Douglas, the author of The Sum of All Our Anger. Wait, there's a tagline here: Civil War 2.0. Thank you
There you
guys.
go.